It is my pleasure to introduce our platform speaker today, James Croft, who I think needs no further introduction. He will be speaking about learning from someone you hate. Please welcome James Croft.
I'm definitely shorter than Sean, but not short enough to need the stool, so I thought I would put it away. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to Sean, to Rebecca for those opening words, and to Cherry and Jerry for that excellent music. It's really nice to have upbeat music this morning because my topic isn't so upbeat, so I apologize for that in advance. Who here has heard of the social networking site called MeWe? Like one person, two people, a couple of you. Maybe there are some people on Altar who have heard of MeWe, because it's the sort of thing that people who join live streams might have heard of if you spend a lot of time on the internet. But I am very, very glad for the rest of you who haven't, because association with MeWe is not good for your health. I'm going to try and describe it, but it's quite difficult. MeWe is like Facebook, but in hell. That's the simplest way I could think of. Now, you might be thinking, Facebook is already hell. How could it get any worse? Well, I shall tell you how it could get worse. Imagine all the people who got banned from Facebook for being too racist, too sexist, too homophobic, for sharing too much misinformation about COVID-19 or the previous presidential election, or for encouraging too many people to join their multi-level marketing schemes. And imagine all those people got together to make their own online community, one unburdened by such authoritarian ideas as content standards and fact-checking and good taste and morality. And then they develop a program which is so badly designed as to resemble an 80s era online message board crossed with a conspiracy theory chat room. So if you've ever seen in movies or TV shows where someone like fully embraces conspiracy theories and they start putting up pieces of paper all over their room and connecting them with pieces of string and things like that, MeWe is just that online. Sometimes people call Twitter a cesspool. So many people, in fact, that when I typed Twitter is into my Google search bar last week, it actually offered as an option, Twitter is a cesspool. And I understand why people say this, because people on Twitter can be very aggressive and combative and cruel. But if Twitter is a cesspool, then MeWe is Chernobyl. It is ground zero of some major ecological catastrophe. It's where the internet's worst of the worst gather, the fringe of the fringe of the fringe. It's where they go to find other people like them, other 9/11 truthers, other COVID-19 denialists, other QAnon cultists. And for the last year, I have walked among them, virtually at least. After the attack on the Capitol in January, I wanted to better understand what was going on in America. I wanted to see if I could get a grip on whatever had overtaken those people and encourage them to storm that sacred seat of US democracy. So I went to where people of that political persuasion gather, and one of those places is MeWe. It is in truth just one of the shadow social networks which have recently been spawned to house those people disaffected with the real world. There is a bizarro world version of Twitter called Parler, and a mirror universe YouTube called Rumble, and even a twisted version of Google called DuckDuckGo, which pointedly doesn't filter out false information. But I thought MeWe, the Facebook of social outcasts, would offer me the best opportunity to meet and actually speak with the sort of people who were convinced that Joe Biden stole the presidential election, and that the US is now being run by victors in a successful political coup. So I created a profile with my real name and a photo of me, and I started joining some of the discussions and social groups on MeWe with the goal of getting to know what people were saying there, so that I might understand them better. I tried not to be deceptive. Initially, I even wrote a bit about myself in my profile to be completely upfront, but I soon discovered that many of the groups would not let you join if they knew you didn't agree with their politics. So I had to get a little creative, because they ask these gatekeeping questions before you're allowed to join the little groups. So for instance, to join the fan group of one popular conservative talk show host, you have to respond to the following prompts. Are you pro-American, and why do you wish to join the group? Okay, that one's easy. I can come up with an answer to that. And explain to me liberals, communists, and Muslims in short. I wasn't quite sure how to do that one and still get into the group. While to join the conservative hangout group, you have to respond to these prompts. Was the 2020 presidential election fair? Now, no prize for guessing what the correct answer is to that one to get into the group. And do you solemnly swear, I can't say it without laughing, on your sacred honor that you are a conservative who loves America and its Constitution? For that one, I can't help but thinking of the line from Harry Potter, I solemnly swear I am up to no good. So I had to get quite creative in answering these questions in order to maintain a shred of my integrity while gaining access to these closed online spaces. And it is, as an aside, one of the most delicious ironies of MeWe, at least to me, that there are people there who talk endlessly about freedom of speech and how liberals are snowflakes who don't like their ideas challenged, while simultaneously creating closed discussion groups which make you perform literal oaths of fealty in order to enter. But I suppose no one ever said human beings were rational. So I got creative and I got into some of these groups. I literally have no words to describe the sorts of things that people are sharing in these groups. In the words of Rutger Hauer's character in the movie Blade Runner, I have seen things you people wouldn't believe. I knew it would be bad. I knew I would see things that would offend my sensibilities. But I had no idea how deep the depravity goes. Because it turns out that if you take people who believe truly wild conspiracy theories, often fueled by the very worst prejudices imaginable, and enable them to talk with each other anonymously in these semi-private online spaces, it really brings out the worst in people. It's really hard to adequately describe how bad it is, because the worst things are far from appropriate to share in this venue or any venue for that matter. But I was able to select a series of quotes from the last couple of weeks that I have seen people say to give you a flavor of the sort of discourse that is happening in these spaces. And I want to warn people that it's disturbing to hear this stuff, but there's no bad language in it or anything. It's just all sorts of views that I'm sure you know people hold, but being very openly expressed. So here are some things that I've just taken and quoted from people who are discussing with each other online. We all know Biden did not get anywhere near that many votes. He is a false monster occupying the White House while bringing even more enemies to kill our country. We need to stand up and be the real patriots our founding fathers were. It is time. We have to take it back now before there is nothing to take back. Give me liberty or give me death. Have you looked at both sides of the germ theory debate? I wasn't aware there were two sides of the germ theory debate. The whole history of germ theory is gray. This COVID vaccine hasn't been tested whatsoever. We are the tests, and there's been way too many complications from it to make any sense to get it. And then this one is most disturbing, I think. It's because it expresses openly white supremacist views. Protecting one's racial heritage is so important. To see our demographic attacked by swarthy third world minorities, radical Islamists, and stand by and do nothing, it is a crime against our ancestors. It is a crime against future generations yet unborn, who are meant to carry the white European race to the heavens and beyond. For them we must fight. And that is the stuff that I felt I could actually share with you. That is very, very, very common, that sort of open political rhetoric in this space. And in that small selection, we have a representative sample of extreme viewpoints today, a sort of conspiracist bingo, if you will. We have the conspiracy that the current president is in office as a result of a stolen election and a call to violent action in response, give me liberty or give me death, and these people love to share photographs of their rifles, like their heavy weaponry. The conspiracy that COVID itself is a conspiracy and that the vaccines do not work, and a whole tissue of racist conspiracies about the supposed takeover of this country by people who are not white. And that's just a tiny slice of what I've seen on MeWe since January, a selection of some of, as I say, the least objectionable things that I thought that I could safely share with you this morning. Since I'm talking about hatred today, and specifically about learning from people you hate, perhaps you are expecting me to say that I hate these people, given that their values are inimical to everything that I hold dear. But the honest truth is, I'm not just saying this to make myself feel good, because I'll go on to say something I'm not proud about in a second, but the honest truth is that while I am afraid of these people and disgusted by their behavior, I don't think that I hate them. When I think about what it must be like to live in a world almost entirely disconnected from the reality which we all share, I feel more a sense of bewilderment and disappointment. I think they should be criticized for the beliefs they hold, because we're all responsible to some degree for our beliefs. But I find that I do not hate them. Many of them are clearly very afraid and feel that the world is changing too fast. They are certainly hateful themselves, but I personally find that the emotional response I have is more one of pity. I find them pitiable. But there are a group of people that I think I do hate, that I think I have come to hate through this process of discussing these ideas with these people online. And those are the very influential people who help popularize and spread those conspiracies, and who often make a lot of money from it. The politicians, the talk show hosts, the pundits, the authors who write best-selling books filled with lies, those people I think I have come to hate. The people who manipulate others into believing things that they themselves have the resources to know are false. People with power, real power, who use that power for evil. And in some cases, at least I think, knowingly use it for evil, to benefit themselves. Those people have earned my hatred. When I think about the lies that these people have spread and the damage that it has done to this country, and the ways that that poison seeps into our communities, and we see it in things like the discussions about critical race theory in classrooms, which we had a presentation on a couple of weeks ago, I find their behavior so disgusting and so outrageous, and it provokes such great anger in me, that I think hatred is the only honest word to use to describe my reaction to it. I don't like feeling that way, but honestly, I do feel that way. I don't know, maybe if perhaps some people have been feeling a little bit similarly. I hope it's not just me. I sort of hope it is just me, but I suspect that it's not just me. And these last few months have been quite difficult for me as I've tried to process this, because hatred of that kind is very uncommon for me. I understand, of course, we're not supposed to hate people. I know that hatred is a corrosive emotion and a dangerous one, and many of the worst things people do to each other are because of hatred. I try to cultivate in myself a sort of openness to humanity, an acceptance of all human experience in both its best and worst facets, because the humanism I believe in is all-encompassing in that way. And hatred is not part of that plan. So honestly, it's not an easy admission for me to make to you, my community, this intensity of feeling I've had, this hatred, because I feel in a way I've sort of let you down by feeling it. I found myself, particularly in political discussions, speaking to and about other people in ways that I don't always believe reflect my highest values. And that's why I wanted to offer this reflection this morning, because the core values of our Sunday Ethical Education for Kids program, which you just heard read so well out loud, say, I can learn from everyone. And that's our theme for this month. And if it is true that we can learn from everyone, then that means we can learn from those people that we hate. More specifically, I can learn from the most diehard supporter of the January 6th riots. I can learn from the most committed conspiracy theorist. I can learn from the best-selling pundit who writes a bunch of lies and makes a ton of money. That's what that value must mean if we take it seriously. And I have been thinking, how? How can we do it? How can we muster the intellectual, emotional, and moral resources to learn from things and people we judge to be despicable? And I really don't know that I have a good answer to that question yet. But I have two ideas. There is an easy way we can learn from people that we hate, and there is a hard way. The easy way is that you can use those you hate to learn how not to be yourself. If that which you hate embodies everything you wish to avoid, then you can use it as a sort of anti-template for your life. So if the conspiracy weavers are dishonest and self-serving, then you should be honest and altruistic. If they rant and rage, then you should stay calm and listen. If they make money from spreading lies, I don't know what you should do. Tell the truth and be poor, I guess. That's the best that I could come up with. That's, I think, the easy way. You watch how those people act, and you try your best to do the opposite. And that honestly has been a little bit helpful to me, as long as you avoid feeling smug about it, which I find very difficult myself. You can use bad examples as a way to remind you how to be better. One of my old professors used the term tormentors for this practice. They weren't mentors, they were tormentors. And in the dedication of his recently published memoir, he wrote, "To my mentors who taught me so much, to my tormentors who demonstrated what I should not do or be." We can learn from those we hate by making a more conscious decision not to be like them. So taking this approach, I have become more careful about what I share on social media, fact-checking more carefully even those posts which agree with my political opinion, for instance. and more assiduous about ensuring that I have people around me who do not share my views, because I don't want to spread misinformation, and I don't want to become part of such a closed intellectual and ideological bubble that I have to ask people whether they agree with me before they're allowed into my group. So if we're conscious, we can view our tormentors as models of behavior to avoid. But that's the easy way. The second way is harder, but more worthy, I think, and more in line with the full meaning of our core value for the month. We can learn from those we hate not just how to be unlike them, but how we are like them. We can use them as a mirror to better understand ourselves. The Roman playwright Terence once wrote, "Homo sum, humani nihil at me alienum puto." I am human, I consider nothing human alien to me. That is a sort of watchword for me. It's a motto, something I repeat to remind myself that these people are human and I am human, and therefore we share every quality which made them who they are. Maya Angelou once reflected on that same quote from Terence, and she put the insight beautifully. She said, "I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me." If you can internalize at least a portion of that, you'll never be able to say of an act, "Well, I couldn't do that." No matter how heinous the crime, if a human being did it, you have to say, "I have in me all the components that are in them." It is so easy when we do slip into hatred to feel like the objects of our hatred are entirely unlike us, members of a different species even. And I've certainly felt that way reading some of the more extreme posts on MeWe. Those are definitely not my people. And it's very easy for not my people to shift in the mind to something more like not people at all. But as everyone who has watched in horror as a family member or a friend has succumbed to that sort of radical break with reality knows, the people on MeWe are people like us. The problem with the people we hate, whoever they are, is not that they are inhuman, but that they are human, just like everybody else, subject to the same flaws and foibles that we all sometimes fall prey to. Now, that doesn't mean we condone reprehensible behavior. To do that would be to breach our other values. We can still look at what those people are doing and say, that is wrong, that is wicked. But it does mean we have to recognize that people we come to hate are not just templates for us to avoid, but warnings of the sort of people we could possibly become. If these politicians and pundits spreading lies and conspiracies are irrational, well, I have been irrational too. If they are selfish, I too have streaks of selfishness in me. If they are angry and afraid, well, I have felt angry and afraid recently. Very angry sometimes and very afraid. Every bad quality which is in them, which makes them who they are, and which makes them subject of my hatred, I, when I am entirely honest, find in myself. Homo sum, humani nihil a me alienum puto. Has that realization helped me much when engaging with my new friends on MeWe? Not really, no. I still find them irrational and scary and as infuriating as ever. The people responsible for feeding them the lies which have led them from reality, those people I have not overcome my hatred for. But at least I hate them in a more nuanced way. I'm glad you laugh at that, because that was meant as a sort of joke, because I know it sounds ridiculous, but there's something in it, at least I hope. I hate them less like some faceless, inhuman other, and more like I hate the worst qualities in myself. And perhaps that's the key for humanists, for learning from someone that we hate. If we cannot overcome our hatred, and sometimes we may not be able to, we must learn instead to strive to see ourselves in those we hate. This is a chastened hatred, one leavened by the thought, and forgive me for the theistic reference, there but for the grace of God go I. But in truth, my thoughts about this are very unsettled. Can we learn from people that we hate? Should we even try? It seems to me like an important question at a time in which our culture and politics is so divided. And so I want to hear your thoughts. I want to make a special call to remind people that after platform, there is a chance to sit right here and express your own views and ask questions and have a discussion. Thank you for helping me process those feelings. I feel much better having got them off my chest. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for expressing those feelings. I don't think you are alone. I think we have all doom-scrolled Facebook of different things. I think you are definitely alone with joining MeWe, though. But thank you for going down that rabbit hole and coming out with